All right, ladies and gentlemen, how many times have you said to somebody, what are you, a Rhodes Scholar? Well, I have a Rhodes Scholar, and he's sitting next to me, and his name is Eric Greitens. He's an author, and he's a former Navy SEAL, and his new book is Resilience. And it's hard-won wisdom for living a better life. There it is on your TV screen. Eric, welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Great to be on with you.
Before we get to the book, which is a very moving story and a very really inspiring story, and it gives people a real roadmap to being resilient in the face of adversity. Okay, you returned home. Others returned home with you. You had a good dear friend named Zach.
Yes.
And when Zach came home, everything fell into place. Everything was going great. He had a business, he had a family, and then adversity struck.
And then boom, like his life is just hammered by hardship. His brother died, he lost his business. He pulls into his driveway one day, gets out of the truck and drops to the ground because he thinks there's a sniper watching him. Lays there for hours.
And that's PTSD.
PTSD.
Yeah.
And then he starts drinking, and then he called me after he'd been arrested. So this was a guy, Navy SEAL war hero, who's come home and now unemployed, alcoholic, on disability. He's looking at the prospect of having his kids come to visit him in jail. We talked, I got home, I wrote him a letter about how you build resilience in your life. You know, how do you deal with pain? How do you deal with fear? How do you deal with suffering? This is something we all have to deal with. But there's a way through pain to wisdom. There's a way through fear to courage, and there's a way through suffering to strength if we have the virtue of resilience.
Okay, before we get to what those ways are, how did you come to, be the presenter of these ways around adversity?
You know, I drew from a lot of people who I learned from. So before I joined the military, I did a lot of international humanitarian work. I worked with families who had lost their homes. I worked with kids who'd been abandoned and abused. Obviously, going through the Navy SEAL teams, there's a lot of resilience that's required. And then for the last 7 years, I've been working with veterans who've come home from Iraq and Afghanistan as they've tried to make this transition in their life. So I drew from all of that experience to help my friend.
Now, this applies beyond military folks, but
Absolutely.
it does apply obviously to military folks as well. So what, when somebody loses when things start, like a house of cards, start falling, and one after the other, like happened to Zach, which was just an incredible streak of bad luck, of one thing just leading directly to the next. What do you do? How do you stop the cards from falling?
There are a lot of things that we teach in the book. We teach people how to use models to make it through difficulty. We teach specific mental toughness techniques that you can use in the face of fear. We teach people how to build a sense of purpose in the face of pain. And one of the things we teach also specifically is we teach people how to take control when things seem to be out of control. One of the things that you learn from prisoners of war who survived is that even when everything was taken out of their control, they lost their freedom, the ability even sometimes to stand, their ability to eat. They said to themselves, I am still responsible for my mind. I'm responsible for my thoughts. I'm responsible for how I breathe. So we teach people how to take control even when things seem to be out of control.
That is, and that applies to everyday life as well, because so often, a quick story, stupid story, but I was driving to the Devils game with my son on Sunday, and out of nowhere, a car, he couldn't have seen me, and I had the right of way, but he was making a left, and I'm going this way. But for the grace of God, he would have smacked right into me. He stopped this short of me. I swerved, and I couldn't control that.
Right.
And it makes you think, if your little things at home, in the office, whatever bother you, it makes you understand that you can't control that either. So forget it, because you can't do anything about it.
So there are a lot of things that are out of your control, but what's in your control, you want to find a way to take responsibility for and to actually build strength in your life. And so it's why we teach people, for example, even how to worry. Right now, we all.
So what's the proper way to worry?
We all worry in our lives.
That's my career, is worry. So tell me the proper way to do it.
A lot of people always say to you, like, "Oh, don't worry, don't worry." But that's really bad advice, because you're going to worry anyway. So what we teach people how to do is how to take that energy and use it productively. And there's a technique called mental rehearsal that we use in the SEAL teams, that Olympic athletes use, that elite performers use, where you actually purposefully imagine things that might go wrong. And then you think through what you're going to do, how you're going to respond if something negative happens, if you're hit by pain, by difficulty, by chaos, by change. And by doing that, it actually prepares you mentally, physically, spiritually, to be ready when you're hit by hardship.
That's very interesting. And the book, Resilience, ladies and gentlemen,